because if
Okay,
I
fine.
share the
Achha,
screen, then I cannot.
okay. Now I'll try and rejoin on from my laptop also, so then I might be able to do it. Okay, go on. Till then,
Okay, now I think it's
I'm
possible.
trying to read.
Yeah.
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 Okay, now welcome to Knowledge Series webinar. This is a panel discussion, a step ahead to the second edition. Creativity is thinking up new things, while innovation is doing new things. So today we have a blend of people who are not just creative but are innovative. That is, they are actually doing quite a lot of varied things in the field, in the actual field. So I would like to introduce Mr. Chinmay Kerkar. He is an immersive media producer and a digital experience designer. That is a UX designer that we call at Frog Design. He has got 8 years of experience. He's a product designer by education and 6 years of experience in UX design, visual design. He is a certified usability analyst and specializes in using scientific and pragmatic processes to understand people's need to design experiences. He aims to use knowledge and media design skills to create digital or physical experiences that are artistic and are financially successful. The second panelist is Namrata Narayanan. Namrata is a product and design lead at Medici Global. She has years of experience and helps bring live solutions that engage in multiple products and technology platforms. At Medici, focus is on end-to-end user experience of the platform. Prior to Medici, she has worked as a UX designer in a global agency. She holds an MBA from California College of Arts. Next, we have architect Nitin Nagdavne. He is an industrial designer, automobile designer, and you must have seen a lot of his products in the market. He was a design project. He is a design project lead for the Honda Activa 125cc model. He was also the design project lead for Honda Dio 110, a design and claim model project lead for the CB Shine motorcycle. He has done his post-graduation from SPN New Delhi and undergrad studies from MIT Gondia. He has 14 years of experience in two-wheeler and two-wheeler designing. Then we have a duo team called both are Parags, and they have a initiative called as Cluster One Creative Solutions. Mr. Parag Anchwar has received his BR's degree from Nagpur University and post-graduation diploma from industrial design from NID Ahmedabad. Mr. Parag Sen studied industrial design in University of New South Wales, Sydney. They both call themselves as designpreneurs. For the last 20 years, they have designed products, identity, visual communications, and environmental design solutions. They have worked with homemakers, startup innovators, small businesses, and corporate companies to create experiences between people, products, and their surroundings. That is what we call as holistic. Cluster One has successfully worked with the manufacturing industry, medical fraternity, educational organizations, hospitality industry, innovators, and anybody driven by passion and with an idea. Both have been a jury at MIT School of Design, Pune, and Symbiosis Institute of Design from Pune on a regular basis. Mr. Parag Sen has studied his master's in industrial design from the University of New South Wales. Last but not the least, Ms. Srishti Mokha. She has done a bachelor's in product design from MIT Institute of Design. She holds a master's in industrial design from the Central Saint Martina University of Arts, London. She specializes in Internet of Things, that is IoT design, service design, UX design, futurescaping, design improve, and pre-imagining product interactions. Her work profile includes Quicksand Design Studio from India, Berber, UK, and currently she is working with Here Technologies, Berlin, as a lead UX designer since October 2015. So that's a short introduction, and I'm sure once the panelists have spoken, you will have a much better introduction from themselves. Thank you. I present Chinmay Kerkar sir to start with the discussion.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Hi, everyone.
I hope everyone's doing good. Good afternoon, good evening, based on wherever you're seeing this. My name is Chinmay Kerkar. I studied product designing from MIT, as Vaibhav mentioned. That was a 4.5 years course. Me, Shrishti, Namrata, we all were part of that MIT initial batch that graduated. And after that, I worked in the field of user experience. I worked with Moondraft, Human Factors International. I was working with a fintech company in South Africa. And after that, I decided to study media in Los Angeles. So that's when I moved to Los Angeles. I studied transmedia design, and I did an Associate of Science in media production. So I've been using my product design skills into media, and trying to blend all those things together. And so far, it's been a great experience. I think design as a field is kind of growing, and it's great to see that there are so many people who are interested in design, or just the field of design, the way it's evolving. So really excited to be here.
Chinmay, thanks a lot. I think, before we go on to that, I'll just switch the order a bit. As long as Srishti is online, let Srishti take over first, because we don't know when she's going to go offline. Yes, Srishti, can you just come on? Just your take on what you've done so far, so that the students get to know you much better and they can ask you questions directed to that particular line. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Chinmay. Like Chinmay said, we went to MIT together to do our bachelor's, and we were the first three batches actually at MIT. I studied product design there, but we were exposed to a lot of foundational subjects like film and video, graphic design, furniture design, automotive, and product design. And then we went on to choose our subjects, and I chose product design. And it was a 4.5-year course. And after that, during that time, I was working nonstop. I was doing a lot of internships and playing with a lot of things at hand. So that led me to do my master's in industrial design. And I went to Central St. Martin's in London. And there it's a 2-year course where you have to compulsorily work to can have a connect between what you're learning and what you do in life. So there I was also working with different companies and startups in Burberry and different places. So that's about it. This is my education history so far. And right now I'm working in Berlin as a UX lead in a map making company called Here Technologies. And that's above me. Back to Abhijit, sir.
Going back to the order. Yeah, Namrata, can you come on?
Sure. So everything that, Srishti and Chinmay said, my name is Namrata. So I did graphic design at MIT, and then I've always been interested in, the mix of business and design, and the impact of design on, all of the business initiatives. So after working for a couple of years in India as a user experience designer, I actually went on to do an MBA in San Francisco. It's a very interesting course actually that blends design strategy, so design thinking, along with just pure MBA courses such as operations, finance, economics, and at the same time the course also looks at we had different courses such as Experience Studio, where you blend in your background in design or engineering or operations to actually create a wholesome experience part of one of your client projects. The course itself actually brings together people from different backgrounds. So I was always interested in moving away from pure design-centric view and working with people from finance, engineering. After I graduated, I started working as a design lead. And then now I also look at product management, which brings in things that I learned in the MBA along with my core design skills.
Yeah, Namrata, thanks a lot. Now, can we have Nitin Nagdawne?
Yes.
Yeah, Nitin.
So, very good afternoon to all, and I hope everyone is doing well. So, I'm Nitin Nagdawne. I did graduation in architecture. It's long back, like 2004. After that, like with Shiroka's guidance, I took industrial design as my post-graduation. So I did post-graduation in industrial design in 2006 from School of Planning and Architecture. In industrial design that time we used to have all like product design in it, complete themes were based on, subjects were based on designing of products, also color and graphics to it. After doing the post-graduation, I joined Honda. In Honda, I'm working in two-wheelers. It's Honda Research and Development, India Private Limited. So especially in two-wheelers. So right now, I design two-wheelers, motorcycles and scooters. So previously it was like Hero Honda. So for Hero as well as Honda, we used to design two-wheelers. But now after the separation, we are doing totally for Honda products. So currently, my job profile is as a design manager. So I manage design, like I manage designers as well. So coordination with Honda. Honda has global R&D, so I coordinate with global R&Ds here as well as manage the schedule for each project. Also design two-wheelers. So yeah, it's like it's a very creative field and very exciting and fascinating area for two-wheelers. So since I was from the initial days only, I was having a passion towards two-wheelers, riding bikes and all. I used to love. Now also I own bike. So that's why I joined this field and I'm loving it. When I see my products on road, it gives me immense pleasure and a proud moment for me because I see my product in Delhi as well as in sometimes in the core villages also. So it's very good to see products of your own when you have made it for customers. So it's very good feeling. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, Nitin, thanks a lot. I think I would hand it over to Parag. Any of you, Parag Sen or Parag Anshwar? It is going to be a little confusing. Yeah.
Can I go first, Parag?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So we call each other Parag. So that creates a happy amount of confusion for into product design, and I chose a university in Australia, which is known for its focus on engineering. And I spent some time there working and studying. So that's how I ended up being a designer. Right now, our practice is called Cluster One. I came back and we started, me and Parag Anshwar, we were working together in Ahmedabad in any case before that also. So we started from Ahmedabad, moved to Pune. And my personal focus right now, over a period of time, it is shifted to product design more. Parag is more looking after more about the built environment aspect of our practice, but he's also active in product design work. My current portfolio has a focus on defense application. That's a unique sort of area of work. Again, we've been lucky enough to have got an opportunity to work on these kind of work environments. We designed products like controllers, work environments, interfaces, human-machine interface for bomb disposal robots, robots that handle unexploded bombs or diffuse IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So the last device we designed had three critical functions, and all three could kill people. So one could fire a gun, the other button could fire a laser, the third could fire a water jet, which could also kill. So that's a unique work environment that we have been exposed to, and we've been working on this for almost 10 years now. But then our work portfolio also includes lifestyle products, home appliances, toys. Parag and I are right now working on a board game with toys. We are also working on two home appliances, a small washing machine and a dishwasher system. We are working on an exercise equipment. So diverse kind of work, and happy to be in this profession. Lots of opportunities. I must also tell people, students especially who are hoping to join this profession, that throughout history, starting from 20s, 1920s, 30s, 60s, 40s, wherever you've had economic downturn, we have had innovations coming up, new materials, new products, new ideas.
Learning from different kind of projects, different verticals. We can blend learning from different verticals to make to create a different experience. Completely different experience can be created. So that was the main. And customers, about customers, I think Parag Sen has already talked about it. And about me, I like to play with materials, different materials, textures, colors, etc. So I'm more of a hands-on person. And people who really interested in these kind of things, they can really join this course. And because of the COVID and other thing, a lot of new verticals are created. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities which can take this ahead. Even Make in India movement, a lot of opportunities are there. People can really have their own feet and create new things. And acceptance is increasing in the market because of this. And boycott China is really creating interest. Right? Opportunities are more than earlier. So now is the time, I think, which people can join these courses and create new things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Parag. Just in case there are any issues with bandwidth, I think you can switch off your videos also in case necessary. I would still prefer that you keep your videos on because it gives us a better chance of looking at you and your facial expressions and so on. But in case there are bandwidth issues, you can still switch off your video so that you can be heard very clearly. Now, once again, I'm just going to go back to Shrishti a little bit. Shrishti, I mean, I know for certain that you did a lot of research before selecting your college. You went to UK and studied there. My question would be, what were the different options that you looked at before you finalized your UK institute? And secondly, how difficult it is or how easy it is for the transition from an Indian graduation to a UK post-graduation? What were the difficulties that you faced when you were in UK when you did your post-graduation from there? This, I think, is a question that I'm going to ask all the three or four of you who have done your post-graduations abroad. And luckily, we have two people who have done it from the US, one from UK and one from Australia. Yes, Shrishti, can you just throw some light on the research that you did for post-graduation? How difficult it was to go into the transition from undergraduate to post-graduation in UK, and how difficult it is or how easy it is to study in UK in a design course. Shrishti, are you there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So first about research. It is going to be a long answer. So when I was doing my undergraduate at MIT, I was constantly working and doing internships, summer, winter, all the time, and working with different materials. So I knew what I wanted to do. So I worked in furniture, I worked in design research, I worked as a product designer for Walmart also. The client was Walmart, but I was working on some project that was for Walmart. So it was a big break, I think. And I was doing these multiple things, and then I realized that I was interested in product design, hands-on working, and furniture design because I love the aesthetics and Danish design, and I was mind blown by it. So this is something I learned during my course, and that's what compelled me to look at Europe in general. Then when it came down to coming down to which universities to pick, I knew I wanted to do a mix of have exposure to product design and furniture design, and I wanted to do both. So I looked at universities that offered these two courses in the same spot, and either or. I was open to doing either or, but more towards product design. So I wanted to go to Denmark first, and I got through this university, but I thought language would be a barrier. And then I looked at London, and it has a lot of design festivals, it has a lot of opportunities, and the language is the same. You can explore yourself, you can express yourself as a designer much better in this university that I found out. I looked at RCA, I looked at the US universities. My criteria were very different based on my personal experiences and my personal wishes that I wanted at that time. So I knew exactly if I wanted to do product design or furniture design, and I wanted both these opportunities in one place. So that's how I chose Central St. Martin's. And what was the second question? I have to write it down. Second question was how difficult was it? Yeah. How difficult was it to apply there? It is not so difficult, if you ask me, because if you know what you want to do, if you have a clear vision of this is what I want to study, this is where I'm lacking, this is where I want to build my skills on, I want to be a great furniture designer when I do this, I want to be a great product designer when, in 10 years down the line. I want to work in innovation. I want to work with social innovation. So you have to pick. For me, it was very clear that I wanted to pick furniture and product design hand in hand, and that's how I. That's why the journey of choosing this wasn't so difficult for me as such.
But then how
Yeah.
how difficult is it to study in UK, for example? Just a general studies.
Okay, general studies. So in UK, the university that I went to and a couple of other universities, the culture is in Europe or like in UK, the culture is very open. Students are not taught or told that this is what you have to do. This is when your assignment is due. Grades don't matter. And I would say that I don't want to say that. I don't want it to come out as a bad thing. But grades do matter. But as long as your passion is still alive. So people here in universities push you to find your passion and to work for what it is that you want to learn going forward. And then universities generally have, summer shows, winter shows, fall shows, and like exhibitions of students doing their work, so that they get more industry people involved. And it is all about compelling and forcing and pushing the student to go out in the world, experience live projects, speak to like real people doing these kinds of jobs. Whatever your project requires you to do, they force you to go out and meet people, work with them together, collaborate more, get internships. So in general, it is a very, very open and an exposed way of learning, I would say. It is not hand-holding at all. It is not spoon-feeding. It is not hand-holding. It is, you have to be an extrovert, or you have to go and, go and earn your own bread and butter, I would say, go and learn for yourself. That's it. Nobody's going to handhold you in general. This is how the universities here are usually.
Good. I think you brought out a very good point. During your undergraduate days, you were working. I mean, you were doing internships, summer internships, winter internships. I think it's high time that the students understand, especially the design students understand any design profession, for instance, maybe architecture, interior design, fine arts, or plain design. They understand the importance of working during their vacations, doing internships whenever and wherever they can get their hands on. That is one thing which we have been trying to stress on the students, but nowadays, I mean, they do not believe in doing this. Bas chuttiyan hai to ghar pe baitho, aaram kar lo. That is the trend that normally the students have. But in case of all these professional fields, it is always good to do an internship. I mean, we have been actually telling the students ki bhai, go to an office, kaam nahi dete. If you just act as a peon, do act as a peon there, learn. If you sit on the stool outside, you'll still learn quite a lot of things. Sure. Anyway, I mean, good, Srishti. I mean, you came up pretty well. You highlighted what things are to be done in UK. There has to be a lot of research that has to be done when you select courses, but then you follow your passion. I'm going to go back to Chinmay once again. Chinmay and Namrata have done your post-graduations in the UK, in US. Now, my question is, design is a field that is very good. I mean, it's supposed to be a fantastic field as far as Europe is concerned. Why did you choose US to do your post-graduations in design when it is very good, or it is on a high note in Europe? If it is architecture, a PG in architecture, something else, I could understand because that is where you go to. But designers normally do their post-graduations most of the times in Europe. Why did you select US? How did you end up in either maybe in California and Chennai?
Absolutely. So I don't necessarily agree that like design is only good in say Europe or it's known for it, but I say design is good anywhere. I mean, I've also, like, when I used to work in South Africa, I've seen the culture of design in Africa as well. So every country has its own culture of design. I don't think so. It's something like a particular continent is sort of known for. That's a very big misconception about where the design should be done. But speaking about what I wanted to do, when I was in MIT, I studied product designing, and we used to create 3D models of our products. And every time, and this is in 2009 and 2010, when 3D modeling was just AutoCAD and Rhino 1 point, I don't know what. So all the softwares were pretty low, and there was no way to make an animation for that product. And I always kind of like crave for it. And I really wanted to create sort of like a video for my products always. And that made me think about media designing, or looking at transmedia design, which is essentially digital storytelling for products or for films. And that's when I realized that I should actually look at media production course, wherein I would get to sort of work with media. And media could be films, it could be advertisements, it could be comic books, it can just be a product itself. So production guys usually treat media like a product. So I was like, hey, I'm a product designer, why can't I treat media like product? And that led me to Los Angeles, because I think if you want to study media, the cutthroat competition in Los Angeles, I think it's the biggest learner. And that was my draw. And that was one of the main reasons why I decided to sort of go to the US to learn media, especially Los Angeles.
Yeah. Namrata, what about you? Why did you, let's say, California? You did also plenty of research before you zeroed in on your PG institute. Why California? Why not Europe?
I did. So I actually, applied across. So I applied in Australia. I applied to a few universities in Europe, Milan, Berlin. And then I also applied to universities on the East and West Coast in the US. So I think I did about 8 to 10 applications. And I got through most of them, again, which were focused on design and management. But I was looking at it, just a little more than just the course, obviously. So one thing to consider, I would really recommend, is just, the visa rules for students, the amount of time that you can work after you graduate. In many countries, it's a very limited, just 1 month or 3 months, versus the US, depending on the program, it can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. So I think those considerations, just because of the amount of, money that you put into those courses, it's important to see what the visa rules for that country are for students. The second thing that I looked at was, when I chose the school in San Francisco, is that San Francisco and just the entire Silicon Valley is at the heart of innovation, is at the forefront of these amazing things that they are building. And so, other than just being doing this course, for me it was important to also be in a place and be in a city that really speaks of innovation and art and design and things like that. Just the kind of exposure that you can get, I would say, just even walking down the streets is and meeting with people is tremendous. So I would say, just considering all of that, and I was also fortunate enough that I had family in the US, both on the East and West Coast, very close family. So for me, that was, I wouldn't say that was the main consideration, but it was, I would say, good to have, especially when you're going to enter a brand new country.
Yeah. I'm just going to come back to you, Namrata. I just have one question, but before that, I'm going to just interject here on a point that you talked about when you're talking about visas and everything else. There's also one more thing that students should consider, that is the duration of the course. Because now in India, I mean, anything less than 2 years of a post-graduation is not considered as a valid post-graduation, especially if you want to come back into teaching. Sure, the profession doesn't mind at all. You can deliver, the profession does not even ask you whether you have done any graduation or whether you have hold a degree. But then if you really want to go into it, Europe or the UK has a lot of 1 year or 1.5 year courses also. So students should first check it out, whether the duration of the course will satisfy that, whether you're going to you plan to come back to India, whether you plan to stay there, and then you decide or you select your course accordingly. The question that I was going to pointedly ask you was, in your introduction, you talked about something called as product management.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to throw some, because this is something that is quite new, and this is something which I think architecture, interior design, fine art students do not know about. What is product management as such, and what do you do in product management?
Sure. So product management, I would say, just think of it it's at the intersection of design, business, and engineering. And the term product management, I mean, you see it now a lot more, I would say, in digital products, but really it's at the intersection of these three, different fields. And the role of the product manager is really to communicate and understand what the business needs are, to understand, to speak and to know more about their customers, and then to also manage all of that information with the designers and the engineering team to really build new features that are fit for the market and that also support the business goals.
Yeah. Which means, I mean, you are opening up a field to the students that a product designer or a designer can also get into management fields. So that management is also not restricted to purely, let's say, BBAs and people who are doing just plain BBAs and MBAs. A designer can also be a good manager, yeah.
Yeah, I actually transitioned from a design lead position into a product lead, because product also needs a lot of understanding of the business itself. So it's it's always good if you've been in that company for a while and then you've kind of shown interest that, hey, I want to be more on the product side, and then you start transitioning into that role. Because understanding the business is the core of taking that leap from design to product.
Yeah. Good. So now, since we are already on to the fact of doing post-graduation abroad, Parag Sen has done his PG from Australia. So now this is something, I mean, normal way of field where going to Australia or New Zealand for a design post-graduation is something pretty rare. Parag, why did you choose Australia as your, of course, Namrata did apply there as well, but then why did you choose Australia as your field for post-graduation?
Right. I had some very specific reasons for going there. Going abroad also. One was I was studying in SEP, doing my PG, and arguably that's one of the best campuses that the country can offer. But having been there, I wanted to experience PG course in a top university in a first world country, first world city. That was one reason. The second driving factor was how many dollars could I buy at that point of time. With the savings that I had, the dollar rate was a critical factor. So that became a deciding factor, because Australian dollars were a certain rate at that point of time compared to GBP and pound and US dollars. The third was, up until then, I used to be a person who was not very communicative. So I used to always see myself as somebody who will have to deliver. So I wanted to always develop my engineering skills, manufacturing skills that would help me build and produce and mass produce. So I wanted an engineering focus in my course. That led me to select University of New South Wales. It's known for engineering courses more. Design also has a very strong grounding in and tradition in University of New South Wales, but the physics department is more well known, and they've also produced 4 Nobel laureates. So that became a driving factor for me to choose University of New South Wales. Also, it's in Sydney, and that's a very international city. So that cultural milieu is something that excited me.
Yeah. Go on.
So, yeah. That really was the deciding factor for me to go there. And yes, that did help me in achieving what I wanted to achieve, because I chose my subjects very carefully. PG courses are compressed and very intense, and within a short period of time, you have to make the most out of it. Otherwise, your time and money all goes waste. So I chose technical subjects. Today, I am known more for HMI skills. I am an expert in ergonomics. I am an expert in manufacturing or prototyping. Those are my strengths. But then change does come over. I was not a communicative person when I took those decisions. Today, you have to snatch the mic away from me. So, so things happen. Yeah. So those were the factors.
Yeah. Before I come on to the Indian PGs, I just have one question once again for Srishti, Namrata, maybe even Chinmay. A very sensitive sort of a question. What is the cost of applying to all these courses? You apply for 8 courses or 10 courses, 10 different universities. And individually, what is the cost of, let's say, doing a course in the UK or in the US or even in Australia? Of course, Australia, you've done it quite a long time back, so that must have changed quite a lot. One point that you stressed here, Parag, is the student should consider the cost of studying abroad also? That is why I'm going to ask Srishti, and then Namrata and maybe Chinmay can also chip in. What are the cost of applying to these courses? And of course, then what is the cost of studying in UK, in the US, and maybe in Australia during those days? Just specify also the period in which you studied abroad so that the students will also know that maybe you did it 2 years back or 3 years back. Yes, Srishti, can you throw some light on the cost factor? I know it's a very sensitive question, but you have an idea as to what it costs to apply, what it costs to study there, the fees, the overhead costs of living. Yes, Srishti, can you pick it up from there?
I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember the application cost. I think it's like 7,000-8,000 rupees, I think. And this was in 2013 to 2015. And the cost of studying in UK is very high.
This is 7,000-8,000 rupees approximately per application, right? Per application.
Yeah. Per
And
application.
how many years back was that? About
This is
3
in
years?
this was in 2013.
That's almost 7 years back. Okay.
7 years.
So it must have almost gone up 1.5 times almost, if not more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
And the cost of studying there is very, very high. I mean, it is high, but I think cost of studying, let's say, the fees is, I think at that time was 22 to 25 lakhs for 2 years. This is a 2-year course, remember? And 25 lakhs more or less. And the living is almost like, at that time it was like 1 lakh a month. So for 24 months, it's like, almost like a 50 lakh kharcha. But I would like to say something that take a loan and pay it yourself and work. And if you don't work, there is no way that you cannot dream of studying in universities or going bigger if you don't take risks and if you're not responsible for yourself. So this is what I did, and I worked and I was able to pay off all my debts and my loans because of this working and the passion that I had for design. So that's one thing I want to add. So
Yeah, good. I mean, that is one thing also that you stress once again. So you have to be responsible for whatever loans you take. Don't just shift it onto your parents' shoulders.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So, Namrata, can you throw some light on when did you apply abroad?
So I went in the fall of 2015, so that's August 2015 to May 2017.
Yeah.
And the cost, I would say, for the applications would range similar to what Srishti was saying. I would say $50 to about $100, around 3,500 to 7,000 rupees. And then the course itself, again, San Francisco is one of the most expensive places to live. So I think the course was.
So now you can compare it to what Srishti said, the tuitions and the thing. Yeah.
I would say it was about a little higher than what Srishti was saying, maybe about 30-40 lakhs for the 2-year program. And then the cost of living is really high. So I would say, again, similar to what Srishti said, but about $1,000 a month. Yeah.
So that's about, yeah.
That is something that you can, if you just start working. Like I started doing like small jobs in school, like working in the tool shop, working in the bookshop, to at least like make your monthly ends meet. So again, like what Srishti said, just start doing like whatever you can to gain experience and get some money.
Yeah. So I mean, good. I mean, once again, every one of you is stressing the fact that you have to work whenever you go, especially PG is not just something that is meant to only study. You have to balance your studies with the work that you're going to do. I'm going to go to Chinmay. Chinmay, compared to all this, what is the cost of, let's say, doing a film course abroad or a media course abroad, a media PG or a film PG? Is it the same, or where do you stand?
So it's slightly a bit different because my application fee itself was around around $400 just to get it going. And I remember, I did a two-year course, and they also have a 4-year course. But usually, in in Los Angeles, what happens is if you want to live in Los Angeles, the living cost is super high. Like as Namrata mentioned, San Francisco living cost when you're on the West Coast is just super high. And I was very close, like I was in Hollywood, and my school was literally like on Sunset Boulevard. So I had to find a house that was close to Sunset Boulevard. And so I can, like I would skateboard, I would walk. They had these bound scooters that I would drive around on. So I decided that I did not need a car because, that's an added expenditure. So I decided to just I would walk it down, and it was a good exercise also. I did not gain any, too many pounds when I was in the US, because the food is, again, that's a different story. Because when you're considering living costs, I think it's also important where you're trying to get your housing. It's also important if you're trying to do a master's in the US. Say if you do your master's in somewhere that is not a big city, there's slightly smaller cities, I would say a B-tier city, the price of living comes down drastically. I know some of my friends in Los Angeles were paying rent of like $3,000 a month. And I know that if you go to say Charlotte, you would find a good house for say $1,500 or $2,000. So it depends on the city that you are living in also, and where the mode of transportation is very important, because in Europe public transport is really good. Say in San Francisco, public transport is really good. Los Angeles, unfortunately, the public transport doesn't exist. It's so bad that everyone has their own car. And yeah, I mean, people think that you come from a very, rich background, so the prices are just thrown at you, even if you don't, and it becomes very difficult. Also, I think what Namrata mentioned about the working, and even I think what Shrishti mentioned, my visa did not allow me to work. My school is such that they don't allow international students to work because they expect you to focus on your studies. It's a more hands-on course, so you had to be at the studios. You're actually talking to people from the industries. We had Damien Chazelle, who directed La La Land, come to one of our classes. We had Steven Spielberg's assistant come and talk to us. We had production designers, come and talk to us. So it's a much more interactive course. So they didn't allow us to work. I was grateful and fortunate to sort of, have my family kind of support me through it. But yeah, it does get difficult. I did not have to take a loan, but I started, working. I worked with TBWA as a creative producer. The initial days, it's just donkey work. They treat you bad. They tell you to, hey, go park my car. Can you just get me coffee? So you're literally you're shooting I shot a few ad campaigns with Danny DeVito, and I still remember his assistant was just oh, this guy, yeah, just push him around. People are rude to you, but that's the learning. It gives you that true world learning of what that industry is and what it actually takes to get there. Yeah, financially, I think it's very important to also see what your visa allows you to do. And also a lot of schools have these policies that they need to focus on academics, so they don't allow you to work. So I think it becomes a very key point to see that you can do that as well.
Yeah, good. So, I mean, which profession doesn't have bullying? Every profession had its own bullying that is done, especially if you succumb to it, you're bullied right through. Anyway, but then it is a good experience. If you take it positively, it definitely is a good experience. Then before coming to the Indian course, Parag, once again, will you take up the same question? What was it like? Because I know you did it quite a long time back. But then what was it like there? What is Australia like? Because that is something that people would also like to know. Because otherwise it's only the European countries and US which normally get into focus. What is it like in Australia, let's say, to do a post-graduation? Then I'll come to the Indian PGs. Yeah.
It's a great experience, but I have a confession to make, because I studied in the year 2000, which means it was the 2000 Sydney Olympics.
Okay.
So that I have to put that down also as a motivating factor. So I was there during the Olympic year, and I saw Dhanraj Pillai and Indian hockey team lose to South Korea. But I could not see any other event because I was working. That also gave me an opportunity to work in design offices because everybody else was participating in Olympics. Yes, Australia is no different from any other place. It's just that they don't speak English or they speak Australian English, which is slightly different. So I had to adjust to that fact. And Australia is very similar to India in the sense that we, in the design ethos and design community, we have this search for identity all the time. What is Indian is not clearly defined. It is very similar in Australia. They don't have a sense of what is Australia, and they're constantly searching for that identity. So that gives me a sort of root in a design ethos, which is not very different from India. As far as finances go, I had only 50% funding. I knew I had to work. I'm amazed that everybody else also stressed upon the same point that you need to work out there. And I made preparations right from the stage where I started applying, because as Parag mentioned, we were in the same team putting up McDonald's stores in 2 months flat. And that's a logistic challenge. In a small space with 30 agencies working simultaneously, it's a logistical challenge. And I knew how to do it. So I wrote to the India Oceanic head of McDonald's saying that this is what my skills are. I'm going to Australia. Give me an opportunity to do it there. And somebody luckily forwarded that mail to a design house there, and I got a call. And they said, why don't you come over for a little chat? And they sat me down and they said, do you really enjoy this work? I said, no, really, but I do it very well. so I got to do that work and earn some money. I earned 50% of my fees. So that was a great, I was lucky, but then it didn't fall into my lap. Before I got this call, I also trained for a week in the housekeeping department at Sheraton by the Park, Sydney. So I was looking at mopping floors happily. I was prepared to do that, and you have to be prepared to do that. And only when you get lucky that you get opportunity to work. Australian dollar was cheap relatively. I bought dollars at 25 rupees at that point of time. Year and a half back, when I came back, I sold it for 35, so I didn't make any profit there. So, but yes, the how you plan your finances is very important. I also took a residence very close to the university, although it was more expensive. It was the Randwick campus, which is a central heart of Sydney, very close to the cricket stadium there. But I could walk down, which means that I could walk back during lunch hour, have a meal and grab a meal and go back. Otherwise, I would have had to spend $5 to $7 on a meal, which is huge amount of money for me. I could buy supplies for the entire week for $15, $20. I mean, who would spend $7 a day or $15 a day? So planning your finances is very important, and work and get opportunity. I worked in design house. If you get an opportunity to work, don't lose it. My only advice. Thank you.
Good. I mean, Parag, every one of you is stressing on the importance of managing your finances, managing your time, and managing your work schedules when you are there abroad. Coming down to, let's say, I'm going to ask Parag HR what it was like, because NID is supposed to be what? The IIT of the engineering field. It's what it is to design, what IIT is to engineering, what IIM is to management, that is what is to design. How is it like to work with work in NID? What is the work culture like? What is the academic culture like in NID? And now, how do you compare yourself, your partner who's done his post-graduation abroad? We'll switch him off if you want, if you don't want him to hear. We'll remove him from the meeting if you don't want him to hear.
We've been through all that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a small town guy. Actually, I've never heard of NID as such, or none of these courses as such. At that time, everybody used to go for a post-graduation after architecture in architecture itself, urban design, and at that time, urban design was the main thing. And I tried at SPA, and now I can say luckily I didn't got the admission. That was really good. I didn't got the admission at SPA, so I moved to Ahmedabad for a job. And at that time, it was like for architects, the initial 2,000 rupees was the 2,000 rupees per month was the salary what we used to get. And heard of this institute about NID, and then good salaries and other things. So I thought, let me try. Anyway, I wanted to do postgraduate. So I just knew the institute NID as such. I never have any other institute's knowledge as such, information about any other institutes at that time. So I tried, and luckily I got it there. I was in Ahmedabad itself at that time doing a job. So That's why I got to NID. But that was, again, when I entered the institute, it was a cultural shock for me. I mean, never seen that kind of institute every year. So that was a completely different experience. It was more towards open culture. So nobody used to call their professor as first. It was every time it was a first name. And at NID, the learning was more through a campus, various fields, a lot of different culture people, a lot of different knowledge people. So at every time your learning happens in a different way. When you are at a computer studio, different guys are working with you. So there's a different insight what you get from those. Even in the workshop when you're making some models, there's different insights. Everybody has their own views. So the learning happen is completely different. It's not the studio learning or the classroom learning. So that makes a lot of difference. That completely makes you think in a different way. So that's the way it happened, and I really feel proud about it. I got an admission and really done there.
Yeah. This is once again, I'm going to take Nitin first now. Nitin, how was it like in SPA? Now, see, at that particular time, the what should I say? The temple of design learning was there were two. One was IDC, that was Industrial Design Center in IIT Powai, which most of the people did not know at all because it is an IIT. So IIT was branded as an engineering and technology institute. So they did not even know that there is an IDC there. The second was, of course, NID Ahmedabad. But then you went to SPA Delhi. And I think that time SPA Delhi, it was quite a recent course. It was a new course at that time. It was not very old. It did not have its, the footmarks that were already established in the profession. So how was it like to do it in SPA when you were compared to, let's say, when you had NID or even IDC? Because these were set institute. IDC was there when we were graduating.
Correct. Yeah. So, as Parag also mentioned, during that time, NID was the most famous and well-known institute for design learnings. So it has all the branches, like say the product design, the toy design, graphic design. Transportation design was not there during that time, but industrial design as a product design separate course was there. This were the different courses. But unfortunately, during my time, when I was supposed to apply, it was already the exam for the initial entrance was completed, and the list of selected students was already published in their website. So I was unable to apply to MIT, and I don't want to lose a year for doing a post-graduation course. I wanted to do it just after my graduation, because I thought once I will be in the field, I won't be able to do my post-graduation. So I was clear that I want to do a post-graduation and I want to do in product design. As during that time I asked you which are the different courses and which I should apply. You were the one who guided me and told me this is a new course, you should try this one also, do some research. So after doing some research, I applied to SPA. And yes, SPA was not having that much of footfall, or not a very known institute for industrial design. Of course, it is very famous for post-graduation in architecture of different fields like urban design or say planning and landscape as well. So, but industrial design, actually it started very, when I joined, it was almost like 10 years, 12 years, it was started, but in between few years it was closed, then again it was started during that time. So that was not known for industrial design, of course.
No, I think, go on.
IIT Delhi was also there that time. In that they were also offering the industrial design course.
Now, just before, I think Srishti might have to sign off a little earlier. Maybe she wanted to clear before 3 o'clock of Indian Standard Time. It's almost 2:40 right now. Srishti, there's one more question to you before we take on the questions from the audience or the students, if you have. My question was, how important is the design of a portfolio? Because when you apply abroad, it is a portfolio that has to be specifically designed. It has to be very elaborate. That is something which speaks or goes before you do. So how important is portfolio making, and how did you make your portfolios? That I'm going to come to Namrata and Chinmay. How did you do your portfolios, and what was the tilt in your portfolio making? Srishti, are you? Srishti? Hello? Srishti there.
I think he
Yes.
does not have network. Yeah.
I think she's lost the connectivity. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's there.
Sorry.
No, she's there. She's
Yeah,
there.
yeah, sorry. I was in a,
Yeah.
the train was passing through a tunnel. Okay, the
Yeah,
importance
okay,
of a
yeah.
portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah.
This will again be a longer answer.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so what is it that people want to see in a portfolio? They want to see what you have learned. What is it that you have identified for yourself as a student? Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Just this year, this summer, I had an intern from MIT itself not here in Berlin, but in my studio in India. And from day one, I told them the prerequisite is that you will have to maintain a blog from day one. I don't care what you do, but you have to write down every day. You can put a photo, you can put lots of photos in the day, you can put like the books you read, the research you do, the number of people you speak to, what are their numbers, what did they say, the meeting minutes, so on and so forth. So basically, it's a log of your learning. And if you do that in a day, you do that the second day, you have that for 10 days, 30 days. You imagine the kind of learning that you would have for yourself. It's a documentation of what you have learned. It's a documentation of what you want to learn. When you look at it again, when you look at, let's say, for example, because so many younger students these days have Instagram, yeah? If you look at your older photos and you realize, oh, I was in this zone at that time, this was important, I like this, I like that. So it's something that you learn from when you go back and you look at yourself. Look at your work, look at your sketches, or be it anything. So I would say the approach that I have always taken is that I have always maintained a blog or multiple blogs. And I would say the approach is to document everything that you're doing, not to show it to other people that, oh, okay, I have a fancy render or a fancy CAD model or a fancy sketch. If somebody wants to know your sketching skills are good or not, they will know, not just by one photo, but from day one, if you sketch bad, but on day 30, if you sketch well, they would understand that, yeah, you have you have a commitment to working hard, you have a commitment to sketching, you have a commitment to learning. So commitment shows, a lot of things show when you document all of these things. So I would say document in the best way that you want to, on a blog, on Instagram, be it anything. That's your portfolio. Every time you send in your portfolio to like companies, you would select one or two projects. That's fine. You can always send like links of like these 2 projects that you want to highlight. But if you really want to get a job and you really want to get, recognized for the work you have done, you have to maintain this plethora of your everyday learning, I would say.
In between, I mean, what is the proportion, let's say, of your academic work and the work that you did professionally because you were interning? What is the weightage? Let's say, are they interested in looking at your academic work or professional work? Whether you should project both? What should be emphasized, your internship work or your academic work? How do you project that in your portfolio? You must have done that. I mean, you must have highlighted your academics or your internship also, since you're so meticulous about keeping logs.
Yeah. I would say if you want to work for a corporate, then you highlight your projects. And if you want to work for your passion, if you want to see what will happen 5 years down the line, if you want to work with design agencies, design studios, then it's important to focus more on your projects, your self-projects, your academics, your internship learnings, everything. But if you want to work in a corporate, then your academic projects will get your foot in the door.
Yeah,
that's
good. Yeah. So it's a pretty simple answer. I mean, it depends on where you are going to apply. Okay. I'm going to come to the same question with Chinmay. Since he applied to a media school, what is the difference between a normal portfolio that, let's say, as a product designer, you would have prepared, and what sort of a portfolio did you create when you went to a media school? But before that, Chinmay, just a minute. There's a question which I want to take up from a student for Srishti, because you did a PG in UK. It may not directly applicable there. We have a couple of students. Chinmay, I'm going to come back to you. Sorry. But I saw this and we might lose Srishti in between somewhere. So the question is, are there any architectural journalism courses in UK that you know of? There are a couple of students who are interested in going in for journalism, specifically architectural journalism or maybe design journalism courses in the UK. If you know of any of these sort of courses there.
I don't know of a specific PG course or a full-fledged course as such, I'm sorry, but I will tell you that when you look at AA School of Architecture, very famously the first week when I went to St. Lucie Martins, my friends were like, oh, we're going for a lecture. Okay, let's go. Where are we going? We're going to the AA school. I said, okay, great. My father's an architect, so I know. So we went there, and then there was a guy who was talking about architecture, journalism in architecture, critiquing, and there was a big debate about one of the topics. And then I came back and I told my father, oh, I went to a lecture, and it was by Charles Jenks. And he said, you went to a lecture by Charles Jenks, and he's a famous critique. Yeah? And I didn't know about it. So what I would say is that you will find these things in people you don't know about. But if you look for architecture journalism, if you look for right people, then maybe they take live sessions, maybe they take smaller courses, maybe they are taking another course at some other university. So I would say, I don't know of a dedicated course, but I would say that's the path to find out who does what, and then learn from the best, learn from the experts in this case, I would say.
Good. I think that answers Urjita. That is a question there. Of course, we have panelists who are in the design course, but I think that is suitably answered. Chinmay, how was your portfolio different from what the other portfolios are, since you applied to a media school?
Right. So for me, the most important thing that they evaluated in my profile, so usually how these applications work is you'll have an online portal where you would put all your details, you would put samples of your work, and then you also have something called a statement of purpose, or they ask you to write an essay about what is it that you're going to achieve from learning this. So I came from a design background, and my goal was pretty simple, that I come from a design background, I come from a creative field, and I want to learn more about media so that I can bring in media design practices into media, and especially immersive media, which is VR, AR kind of stuff, which also requires experience design and interaction design, because that's exactly the kind of I even if I come from product design, I worked in the field of experience design for almost 5 years before I actually did my master's. So meanwhile, I had a lot of projects that I'd done. My portfolio had L&T financial services. I had projects that were finance-based, tech-based, and they were even projects which were immersive media-based. So I had done a project for, say, ATM. She has a drama academy. She comes from that academy, and she kind of had that influence on me right from the beginning. So somewhere subconsciously in my narrative, it did play. And that kind of helped me build my story, right? And for my kind of work, at least that was the most important thing. And I think the question around journalism, it's very simple. I think architectural journalism, that itself tells you, the two things that you really need. You are an architect. If you're already an architect, you need to learn journalism. What do you become by the end of it is architect journalism. So there is you won't find specific courses like this, perhaps, but then you could actually do a course which is, say, journalism. So you're doing something completely different. When I was doing films, I knew someone who was a nurse, but she was learning how to be a model. I knew someone who was into, he was an architect, but he was into performing arts, stunts, explosions, special effects. You need these things. Now, architects are also, a lot of architects work in the field of production design. They do, you create sets, interior design for sets, interiors for science fiction movies you're creating. The creativity is kind of limitless, right? You can go as crazy as possible. And I think you just need to know what exactly you want to do. Those stories, those narratives will come out. So statement of purpose, your work sample, that collectively kind of is what you need to do.
Yeah, Chinmay. I mean, once again, I'm worried before Srishti goes off. Srishti, you have been working in UI UX. You have done extensive work in user experience and user interface. Throw some light on that field, which is, of course, now a pretty burning field and pretty much in demand. So before once again I lose, I'm just worried that before we lose contact with Srishti, that Srishti covers all her portion of the syllabus.
Okay, I still have 20 more minutes, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
I know.
We can-
Yeah. No, because
Okay.
what happens is when someone starts answering, I mean, you just lose track of time. You take about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Yeah. Yes, Srishti.
Actually, is it okay that if we continue for the next 2 minutes, because there's going to be an announcement for the next 2
Okay,
minutes?
right.
So
Okay, then I'll take Namrata for her portfolio. Then we'll go back to you.
Sorry.
Namrata, yeah, Namrata.
Yeah.
What was your portfolio like? Because I have seen your work when you were doing your graduation. So I
Yeah.
know. I mean, so how did you prepare your portfolio for post graduation?
So, because mine was a mix of design and business, a design portfolio wasn't compulsory because people came in from different backgrounds. But because that was my strength, I actually showed a lot of my work that I had done when I was working in the agency. So I took very little of the academic projects, but more of my internship work and the work that I was doing at the agency. Just because the course was in design and business, so I wanted to align my story and portray my concepts in a way that I am thinking about business. I am thinking of a picture, which I think I did not have in too many of my academic projects. And then I got to what Chinmay said, the statement of purpose is really very important. It really ties together, all the work that you're showing in the portfolio, plus what your intent is to going abroad and studying. I think the second thing to consider is just your communication skills. In this case, it would be what you're writing. So clarity in terms of thinking, that should you should be sort of focus on that. So have people read what you've written. Look at small things like this grammar. Those are just basic hygiene issues which I've seen. A lot of people miss or don't really take seriously.
Yeah, I'm going to once again stress the fact here. Once again, it's very important to dot your I's and cross your T's, especially when you're sending your portfolios. One thing that all of you three, I mean, of you, your portfolio should be tilted towards the course that you are tilted. It has to highlight or emphasize the course that you are going to. But there is one word of caution that I would like to put in here is, do not lie in your portfolios. If you're strong in a particular field, say so or hide it. Safed jhoot bolo. Lekin don't just put in an outright lie. If you're not good in a particular field, don't stress on it. Or the other way around, if you're good in a particular field, just highlight it, because it is extremely easy to see through your lie. Now, I think Srishti will come on. Srishti, just give us a time when you can talk back again, talk in again. Till then, I'm going to talk about the Indian methods of admission. NID or even SPA, of course, they are quite a long time back. The process of admission, what it was like then, and I'm going to highlight what it is at present. So, Parag, can you throw some light on what was the admission process like in NID? And then Nitin will take it up as to what was the admission process like in SPA when they went in at that period. I'm going to then take it up as to what it is like at present. What do they do at present? Yeah, Parag, can you take it up first?
Yeah. At that time, I think there were 3 stages. First was the form itself. They used to have 20, 25 different questions which you need to answer in that form, admission form. And after that, it was more of an entrance and workshop. So they used to see your workshop skills also. And the third stage was interview. So for the portfolio, I always said, just don't show the final outcome only. let's show the process also. They used to more follow on the process, how you arrive to that particular stage, or what is the thinking behind what you have achieved in the final stage. So that was more important for them during that time. And for the interview also, there used to be almost 10 people panel with psychologists and sociologists sitting there, checking you whether you're telling lies or you are just you're giving mud answers from some book or something. So that was during that period. So there were three different stages which you need to go through.
Good. I think students who are listening to you, my students from Amity who are listening to you would think as if I am speaking through you, because we have been always highlighting or stressing on the fact that you better talk about your design evolution. We are not interested only in the final solution. It is the way you have reached or arrived at that solution is what is more important. That gives us a clear picture of your process of things. Okay. So just before that, I mean, Nitin, what did you have to go through when you applied to SPA?
When I applied during that time, it was one, as Parag mentioned, it was the form selection. Like many students fill up the form, so there are some shortlisted forms. Then we used to have an interview one-to-one with the dean as well as the HOD of the department. So they during that time they see how much interest you have to do this course. So once you show that passion of you wanted to do this course, then only they take those students. So it should be visible through your work as well as your like when you speak, it should be visible. The interest or the passion that you want to do the course, you want to join the course, and it was also through the test that they give you some to design some product, and you need to come up with the concept as well as sketches. So in design, I feel this sketching is very important, and it comes with practice only. So during that time, it was
Yeah.
the process through.
Now I'm going to just fill in here. One thing that you stressed even now, even in this digital age, that sketching is still extremely important, because the
Right.
computer doesn't think for you. So you have to develop your sketching skills, and we have been trying to stress that since the first year itself. Then there is, I'm going to fill in for the present situation. Presently, as both of you said, first is the important thing is form filling. We had seen this in the last panel discussion also, where one of the panelists also stressed on how you should fill a form extremely carefully, how you should also stress on your positive points, your curricular, your co-curricular, extracurricular things also, your strong points also. The second thing that they have is your drawing examination, because see, now the thing is, there are a lot many more number of students who are applying for post-graduation studies these days in design field than when these panelists have done it. So at that particular time, the number of students applying was far less than what it is today. So there have to be more cutoffs that have to be put in. And that the first cutoff is after the form. The first cutoff then is your drawing exams that they have at different centers along the country or across the country. Before that, one point that I have to stress here once again is the timeline. Most of the design institutes start their form filling process as a September, August end or September. So if you want to apply for 2021, your forms will open sometime in September 2020 itself. It is not that you stay se baithe, you get up in March or April and then start searching for your design programs. No. By that time, the design program admissions would have been over. Their final lists come out sometime in April or something. So if you're applying for a design program, start searching right from August to September. Be wary of their dates. So the second cutoff, as I said, is your drawing test that you have across the country. There are thousands of students who now apply for your online, online, but thousands of students that now apply, and they are given tests which they have to appear at centers, different centers. I don't know what is going to happen this year. This year is a special year. Then they shortlist about 200 to 250 candidates for PG, depending on the number of seats that they have. If they have 20, I think they take about 3 to 4 times that number for that particular program. So you may have anywhere in the range of 2 to 300 students that have been shortlisted, which they call for. Sorry, if there are 200 seats, they have called in about 600 to 800 students for what they call as studio tests or studio exams. And those studio tests are then given individually. There is one studio test that is individual, and then there is a second test that is given in a group wise. Random groups, which they take, they declare on the date itself, so you just can't even interact with each other. And then that group is monitored very, very elaborately to even understand how you people interact with each other, your leadership qualities, your strong points, all those are monitored in your group test. So you have a group test and you have an individual test. This is then followed by your PI or your personal interview, where you have to take whatever you have designed in the individual test. And of course, the group test is what they know about because they already monitored you. So whatever you have done in your individual test, you have to take it for your PI and once again speak on what was your idea and how did you evolve that particular design, how did you arrive at that particular solution. So now you have your form, you have your written or your drawing test at different centers. You have a studio test which comprises of maybe an individual and a group test. Of course, these differ from school to school. It also differs from the number of students who apply for a particular program. And finally, it boils down to a personal interview where you are faced with maybe 4 or 5 different panelists, or even in those days, IDC had about 8 or 10 different panelists. And there was, during our period when we graduated, of course, during those days, if you recall, there were some very specific questions that were asked. They used to ask you, what are the number of steps that you climbed when you came into this hall for your interview? Or how many right turns or left turns did you take when you came into this hall? So they used to think about your awareness when you walk down to a hall. Similarly, in one of the tests, they asked you, what were the things related to such and such thing that you saw when you drove down to the examination center? That was in your drawing test. And the most commonly used question that it was a myth maybe, they used to ask you the color of the wall behind you. And if you turned around, you were out. Of course, in those days, it was considered that the entire room had the same color. It was before you had one highlighted wall. Now it makes sense if you just turn back and look at the wall. But during those days, having a wall of a different color in a room was taboo. So all walls of the same color. So they used to ask you what is the color of the wall behind you. And if you turn back, you are out of the hall. You're out of the PI. So these were the type of things that you have to be aware of. So be aware of your surroundings when you get into a PI, right? So I'm going to go back to Srishti before she now logs off. Srishti, before you go off, just throw some light on the projects that you do in UI, UX, a very different field, a very new field for all of us designers. Srishti, are you there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
So UX, UI. Okay, I'm going to give a generic.
Generic.
Yeah,
and specifically to what the projects that you are handling in that particular field. What sort of project can we look at when you are in UI, UX? Yeah.
Okay. My work actually is very complicated, so it would be very, very long. So I would give a generic one. UX, UI is an offshoot of, let's say, product design, graphic design. A lot of different people can move into UX, UI. The basics. So what are UX? What is UX UI? What is the project like? Whenever we use an app, like, I don't know, Instagram, or like a train booking app, or Facebook, these are app designs. So how do you know, how do I see कि Google Meet में
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah. This is something which I'm going to ask you as a corollary, since you are listening to us and we're not hearing you. You have your father's an architect, so you come from an architectural background. My other corollary
Yeah.
to this is, can architects get into UI UX, or whether they go to find it difficult, whether they find it easy? Can they get into UI UX? Because this is something which is maybe two-dimensional. We are used to three-dimensional designing. Yeah,
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I think you can. Short and sweet, you can move into UX UI. That is something. There are these designations called architecture designers, solution architects. So you might want to go to LinkedIn, search for solution architects, look at the different companies, see what it says in the job requirements, and see what that means. Solution architects. Of course, like Namrata was saying about product management, it's at the intersection of design and management, I would say. Solution architects have a more complicated role, but it is all about planning. Okay, how are we going to get all my Facebook friends' data on my phone? How am I going to see who's online, who's offline? Do I want to see that right now? Do I want to see who's online only, who was online 6 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago? What kind of information is important to show? So all of this architecture decisions are made by a UX, UI designer, a PM, and a solution architect. And I would say a team in general, but these are like design elements that we see on like the apps. So in UX, UI, that's what you do. You say, okay, I log into Facebook. I want to see all my, probably you want to see everyone's status. You only want to see the photos. You have a different app or messenger. So you design apps, you design websites, you design complicated softwares. So what I do right now is design complicated softwares that touches like machine learning or like, algorithms. How should algorithms be functioned? How should they be structured so that you can see out of 600 of my Facebook friends, 200 are acquaintances. But how do you know they're acquaintances? How do you mark that? So what is that segregation? How do you calculate these small things? I will find a better example, but this is the gist of UX UI. And again, like these are like, this is the foundation, I would say. The foundation that you learn in the design course is the foundation that you have to apply when you're working on a project. I would give a recommendation that if you want to get into UX UI, you take any app that you're used to. If you're used to Facebook the most, if you're used to Instagram the most, now break it down and start. If you want to make a Instagram or a Facebook version for yourself, what would that look like? Draw it on paper. Yeah. So I know earlier you mentioned sketching and everything. I want to train, but I'm always sketching. So this is for a different project that I'm working on with a friend. So I'm always like doing these things and sketching throughout, like all the time, sketching. So
yeah, I noticed, Srishti, that it's a square pad, something which we have been telling our students to carry along. I mean, they just sketch on blank papers. They have no graph papers or square pads, and then they lose sight of the scale of the things that they're doing. So it's always necessary. I want students to take note. Yeah, he's sketching on a square pad.
I've even sketched on like, the vomiting bags that you get in the airplanes. I'm like a sucker for paper. I'm always finding paper and like sketching random things. Just sketch. Put your ideas on paper. Yeah.
Yeah. And before, once again, since you did it from UCAM, this is a question that is going to go to all of you.
Yeah.
You talked about working when you're learning as well. What are the scholarships that are there? What is the scholarship scene like in the UK? What can you look at for scholarships? Full scholarship, part scholarships. What are the things that you can look at? Because the costs are extremely high, and we can't do it. Let's say most of us cannot do it without scholarships.
Yeah.
And how do you apply for them? Where do you apply for them? Anything that you know of, briefly.
Okay. To be very honest, I only know about the university scholarships that the universities offer. But I know of like some friends who have done like who get like Parsi scholarships and who get like Tata scholarships and like there are these big funds. I don't know on the tip of my fingers at the moment, but there are different scholarships. But I would say that I had thought about, I want to apply for a scholarship because I cannot take like 50 lakhs loan and then. But the thing is that it only goes to, you have to position yourself. Are you really in a very bad financial situation, or can you make do with it? So the scholarships always are the best, but I don't think that it's readily available for people who are in the middle. It always goes to people who really, really need it. So Yeah.
So, I mean, in other words, there are scholarships that the university offers, plus there are other scholarships that even you can think of when you, before going to the course, before going abroad, there are Indian corporates or Indian people, what you can say, Indian entities who offer scholarship for studies abroad. Right? There's an interesting question that has come up here. One of our students, Tanvi, has asked you a question. Of course, once again, that's a common question. Apart from the research and planning and efforts that one has to put into a PG course abroad, it is also important to think about what next after I'm done with the course. Because since you're investing with a lot of money and hard work into it, did you think about what next? Did you think about, let's say, whether you're going to come back to India, how long were you going to work there abroad, or whether you're immediately going to plan to come back to India? Because from what we know, the amount of spend that you spend, if you come back to India, it's very difficult to pay it back because our salaries are so low. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to touch on multiple things there. One thing I want to add, when you're looking for scholarships, companies also sponsor scholarships. Yeah, if you're working with a company, they can pay a certain amount of your tuition fees so that you go, you learn, and you come back. So this happens in Europe usually, as well as some Indian companies as well. So, and then back to Tanvi's question, what next? Okay, you want to think about what next before you go there. You know, you have to start thinking about it the moment you land or just before you land. So I will give you an example. When I was going for my master's, I booked my tickets and then I started looking for like internships, and I looked at different designers that I can intern with. And those time period there was London Design Festival, which is a big festival in September. And there are things like London Open House where you can go and visit Norman Foster's or Zahadi studios for free. Yeah, you can go and see their work, you can speak to people. So I knew about these things. I picked up a lot of these things. So I found out this internship opening and I preponed my tickets to go there. So I would say before you even start your course, if you can get an opportunity, even if it's not good, take it. What next? Once you start doing these hacks, you know, start working before, start applying before. If you want to do a winter internship, start applying in summer. If you want to do a summer internship, you start applying in winter. So plan things 6 to 8 months ahead because people will not respond so easily so faster. After you're done with graduation, with the knowledge that you have collected in these 2 years or like 1 year or 6 months, or like not even 6 months, I would say 1 year at least, prepare for it. Once you have collected this knowledge, you know people, make like a, you know, reach out to them all the time. Speak about if you want to get a job. Everyone's situation is different, I would say. This is a learning that I want to say before my answers make sense to you, that everyone is in a different situation. For a woman, it's different. For a man, it's different. From the financial point of view, it's different. From your personality point of view, getting a job on the spot while talking to someone is different. So you first analyze how you are and how you, delegate yourself. And then start applying for jobs 6 months, at least 6 months, if not 1 year in advance. Yeah, you have to start applying for jobs if you want to stay there. I wanted to work. I wanted to get as much as experience. So I wanted to do another master's in Denmark because my need for furniture design did not get satisfied. But I want to do another master's, and I'm still thinking of doing different masters or different short-term courses because I do want to learn. Yeah, I have to read the question again. Sorry.
No. So, I mean, what next? I mean, because you spent a lot of money in investing, I mean, for studies and hard work into it. So did you plan to stay abroad or did you plan to come back to India? Did you plan it beforehand?
I did plan it. I did plan that I will not come back until unless my money is made. But that almost did happen. And then I did come back and I did make my money and I still came. I went back again. So that was my plan, that I will not come back until unless I pay off the money that I've invested in it. But also visa situations do depend country to country, and now it's getting tougher for most of the countries. So at that time we did not get any extension, although I had a company who sponsored me and I was working. But then I decided to come back because 2 years of this master's, which was like working all the time, it was like a 2-year job in London, which was not just 2-year job, but it was like, 3 jobs in a day. So it was too much for me. And then 3 years of working there. And I was like, okay, now I need to take a break. I came back and then I thought, okay, salaries are very low. the way of working is different. So then I decided to come back again. It has been a very a journey with like a lot of ups and downs and a lot of touch points.
But I think that is a part of life.
Yeah.
And then before, I mean, I was going to thank you, but before I could thank you, there's another good question that has come up from Vipul.
Yeah.
After investing 5 years in architecture, is it really prudent to spend another 2 years learning algorithms, UI, UX, and so on? I have a good mind to answer that, but I'll ask you to answer that.
Okay.
But because you don't have an architecture background, but then I mean your point of view would be different.
I don't have an architecture background.
Yeah.
I did product design and I moved into UX UI. And I know that I will move into something else pretty soon. So thing is, I have something, I don't know if it makes sense for you. You have to analyze it for yourself. If you see yourself fit to be working in UX UI or artificial intelligence or like machine learning for the next 20 to 30 years, if these topics that you picked up, will they make sense 20, 30 years down the line? You have to think about it. Or what is it that you can excel in? You have 5 years of architecture. Why don't you think about bridging the two? There's so many different possibilities that you can explore with software architecture, do like Udemy courses, learn about it, see if you're interested in it. I wouldn't give you a yes or no just yet. You have to analyze for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to come to that. It's a simple thing. I mean, it relates to your passion. If you're passionate enough, you'll definitely learn it in 2 years. You'll learn it even in 6 months if you really want to. If you're passionate enough, you go ahead. If not, I mean, if it's a calling, you take it up and do it with passion as well. So, of course, now I'm going to the other panelist. Srishti, I think it's time, before you should be signing off. Before that, I'm going to thank you. Thanks a lot, Srishti, for taking time out. And still keep, still keep on. I mean, do stay with us as long as you can.
Yeah.
And we'll take up any questions that you can. But then if you're just going to sign off, please just let us know by barging in between and just drop us a word that you're then signing off. But thanks a lot. I mean, it was a wonderful experience, wonderful topic talking to you, even though you have your mask on. Just one thing, don't touch your mask from the outside. That is what you're supposed to do. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Srishti. Do stay along with us. Okay, but I'll go on to the other. I mean, we had to take you on because of your time.
Sorry,
this was really wonderful. No, I mean, we had a
Thank
good time. We had a good interaction, even though you were traveling. There are no issues whatsoever. Okay. Now I'm going to, thanks Srishti, thanks once again. I'm going to go to Chinmay once before. Chinmay, it was once again, I'm going to take you up on your media school or media training. Do you require any skill sets previous to or prior to going there? Any skill set that you would advise the students to have before you go to a PG course?
I mean, it's always important. Say if you're working with a certain software, it's always good to know certain tools. It's always good to know certain ways in which certain techniques that you can use these softwares in. So that is something which, whenever I have free time, I love to like keep looking at new softwares. Like I remember before I went for my media design PG, I knew the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. Like I used to just like sit and try to use as many different softwares as I can. I used to expand my knowledge. You spoke about sketching, and I think that also is something very important. In fact, architects use a lot of like tools to make straight lines, but in design, the first rule is to not use any scale or any drafters, but you're sketching freehand. So your skill set has to be that good that without any scale, without a protractor, without a drafter, I should be able to, sketch things out. So, the more you improve yourself, the more skills you develop before you actually go in. It's easy because most of my grades, I got A and A pluses. I got like the highest sort of like the honor that they give during the graduation. But it's purely because I knew 80% of the things in terms of the course that they were going to take beforehand because I came from a design background. So leveraging your skill sets, sharpening your skill sets before you go in. When you're about to, eat a steak, you kind of like sharpen your knife. It's exactly like that. You're sharpening. If you don't sharpen your knife, you're not going to cut the steak properly.
No, but then how long you knew that you're going to go? How long before you graduated did you know that you're going to go in for media school? Because if you have to sharpen those knives, you have to sharpen them well in advance. So how long did you? I mean,
Right.
how long before did you take a decision before graduation that you're going to do it in media? Because then your skill sets change.
Yeah.
What
No,
softwares you learn change.
I would say that I used to try it. It was right in the beginning, like I said, like maybe it was my third year of design when I actually started, when I interned for the first time. Then I did my graduation project. I wanted to make a video for my product, and that was the reason why I got into editing. And I was like, I'm a product designer, but I'm looking at Premiere Pro and After Effects and animation softwares, which I'm like, why am I looking at these? But then I realized that, hey, if I make a product and I export it into that software and I create an animation, I get right from sketch to product to an ad or a trailer that I can make for my product. So I wanted to create that entire ecosystem. I wanted to learn that entire sort of process, right from conceptualizing it to actually putting it in the market. Can I do it? Can I tell that story? Because and this is before Netflix and media actually took off, before YouTube actually blew up, online media consumption was something which was happening. And if you see, I also do interaction design. It's not just limited to media, because it's also in terms of like augmented reality and like virtual reality. These are new technologies that are coming in, which are media technologies, but you need people to design things into it, and yeah, by the end of it, you're creating, your experiences. So yeah, I knew about it right from the beginning, but I just knew that I had to sharpen certain areas in order to, be where I am. And these courses usually abroad, they hire like 10 international students in one batch. So the competition is very tight. Like, are you like the top 10 in the entire world who can actually show it? So you need to be at that level. So the admission limitations or the number of seats are very limited. So you need to be the best, and you do whatever it takes to be the best.
Yeah. Namrata, I'm going to ask you the same question, mainly because your field or your choice was management, product management, or you're inclined to that. Now, when you're inclined to that, what were your skill sets that you sharpened before graduating, let's say? When did you take a decision that you're going to go into management? Because now from design going into management is something which is totally different. I mean, no one who does graduation in design would even imagine that you are going to go into, let's say, something which is related to management. Because designers are creative, management people are supposed to be non-creative, supposed to be, into inverted commas. Yeah. So how did you sharpen your skills?
Yeah, I think, my story is a little different than Chinmay's. So when I was in design school and I was interning, I think I started to get a sense that for me to see the impact of my design and to be at that forefront, right, where I'm building something, I'm seeing the impact of it is really important. I've also grown up with my mother, who has basically always done her own things, from an architecture firm to whatever new business that she's interested in, she's always gone for it. So I've always seen that kind of, like you're interested in something, to go for it. And I know that I haven't done anything of my own yet in terms of studying business, but I just know in my heart that that's what I'm going to do. And so when I went for my, when I started working actually right after my degree, I think it became even more clear that, I was a user experience designer, but I don't want to go into like senior user experience designer and then lead user experience designer. I wanted to kind of then start moving, a little laterally, but using my design thinking and my design skills, to whatever I was learning. So in terms of, did I prepare anything specially? I would say not really. I would say that I worked a lot on my communication.
Okay. I'm going to once again ask you the same, put you into the same question bracket. about scholarships.
Yeah.
Before going, you also did a lot of research on the scholarships that were available there. What did you? Because Srishti highlighted, let's say, in the UK, yours is a US background.
Yeah.
So
I think in the US, it's only at the university or the college gives it to you. I wasn't offered one, at least in CCI. I got a scholarship somewhere else, but I chose not to take up that program. And then in India, there are a few. I think the only one that I came across was one offered by the Tatas. But I think it's a little harder to find scholarships for, design programs abroad. I think there are a lot for engineering medicine. You just have to really look a little more.
In India, I think there are Tatas who offer. I think Mahindra is also nowadays they offer scholarships. But of course, once again, the fight for it is extremely fierce. It's extremely cutthroat. Even abroad, I mean, you just don't get those university scholarships that easily. But then my question was, can you manage even if you don't get a full scholarship? Full scholarship, chodo. Even if you get a part scholarship, if you don't get a part scholarship, can you still manage?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie. Like my family and my mother has been just tremendous in her support financially. To see that I can go and do the course, and so I would say that that was definitely a privilege. But just knowing that was there when I did move to and start my program, I couldn't immediately work just based on the visa. I couldn't work outside. So I started just doing like workshop courses and standing in a tool shop for 6 hours just to get, $10, $12 an hour. So it's really either way, but once you get there, you just have to.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to go to Parag now. Now, Parag has a unique story. He did his graduation in architecture, then did his PG in landscape architecture, did not complete his PG in landscape architecture. There's a big history to it, and I'm not going to underline that, sir. And then he suddenly jumped into product design. Parag, why did you jump from, let's say, a varied field like from architecture to landscape and landscape to product design?
Right.
And does that help now in your product design field?
It does. So first of all, I'm going to say that the architecture course is a very well-rounded course. It prepares you for various kinds of design, non-design courses also, management, even management. Architects would go on to make very good managers, system designers, and various other fields. So that's a strength. Being an architect prepares you for the world. Why landscape? Because I've already mentioned this. I was interested in the scale of design. So from confined space to unconfined space was a different grammar of design that I wanted to explore. And I was seriously enjoying landscape. I had worked with landscape architects before I joined landscape architecture. I joined with a scholarship also. But I must say that it was not a sudden jump. I was thinking about product design right from the tier architecture course. I was, even at that point of time, sort of started exploring things about product design and what it really involves. I just had a scholarship, and the scholarship was valid for 2 years. I got my scholarship in 4th year, if you remember, Dr. Sir. So once I graduated, I had to take that scholarship, otherwise it would go waste. So I joined immediately the landscape course, and I found that I really did want to explore the product design profession and field. That aspect of design and design at the scale of an object. And given my experience in the Premier Institute in India, I did want to go abroad and study. That's why the jump to product design. And sorry, what was the second part? Was it the second part of the question?
No, how does that jump? I mean, there's a background, let's say, in architecture, landscape, and product help you in product design. You already answered that. Yeah. There's one thing that I'm going to ask here is, I know for sure that you or even Nitin have a very good hand. Now we also have some fine art students who are here with us. How does that help, or how important it is to have or to use your hand or to use sketching in product design, in design in general, product design in particular.
Can I take that?
Yeah, you take that first,
Yeah.
then I'm going to go to Nitin. I mean, I know for sure that you people were extremely good at drawing.
Thank you so much. And I'll quote none other than Shirodka himself. I remember in one of our classes, Shirodka sir said that you can never remove the touch of human hand from design. And that stays. Even today, you need to have that human touch in any design. You can use any number of tools, but design comes from heart, and your hand has to express that. So your hand has to express your mind and your heart. So touch of human hand, very important. How you express yourself with your hand is very important. But the flair of sketching is not all about design. A lot of students come up and try to impress with that flair. Some have, some don't. I always tell my students, don't get dejected if you don't have that flair for sketching and drawing, because design is again in your mind, not how you express it with a pencil. But expressing it with a pencil is important because that scale and that human touch is important aspect of design. And when I go into juries and classes, I always ask, people tend to mime their designs and indicate how this will be and that will be, and I tell them what is the size of the object, tell me first. And or if they fail to answer that, I tell them what is the height of the chair you're sitting on or height of the table you're standing in front of, and that's a critical question. Sometimes or very often they fail to answer. Similarly, if they're working on UX, UI, or virtual media, I ask them resolution, screen sizes, file sizes, and I ask them if they've sent me a Behance portfolio. I told them what impresses you about Behance that you think that I'll get impressed by what you've presented here, when I have to click 5 times to even see whether you've written something on Behance or not. So things like that. But yes, sketching is a basic tool of design, and a sketchbook is part of designer's existence. So you can't live without that. If you are coming up to my studio without any of those, I'll sort of, you are starting with a disadvantage.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to put the same question to Nitin. Nitin, how important was sketching to you in your postgraduate course, and even now in your job? Do you sketch even now in your job?
Right. I do sketch, and I feel like sketching is the most important thing to transfer your ideas into sketches. Like sketch speaks more than what is there in your mind. So once you portray that very clearly, if you have a good sketching skills, it will portray better. So the thoughts or the ideas that you have, you need to generate those ideas into sketches. So I think in Honda, it's the core thing that the designer should do as a sketching is very important. Either you do it by, sorry, there's a lot of disturbance.
No. So it's okay. No issues. Yeah.
So in Honda, like we have R&Ds in multiple countries, like say in Japan, in Thailand, in Europe, Rome we have, then we have in US. So multiple designers are there who portray their ideas through sketches. So you need to show that your idea is the best one. So there is a competition of showing your ideas through sketches. So once you are able to do that, you'll be appreciated with that. And I think the medium doesn't matter. Like for example, hand sketching, we used to do earlier the hand sketching and rendering by hand, but now we are doing it in digital Wacom systems. So it's a digital rendering. So, but the thoughts are always there. Like what do you want to show?
There's a question for you. There's a question for you. Why did you move from architecture to product design, and from product design to automobile design? Was there any self-analysis of skills, or was it just passion about the field? Because these are three different.
Right. Yeah. So when I did architecture, it's like I thought architecture is the core ground for designing. It's open a stream, a path for design thing. So I thought after designing, I want to after architecture, I thought designing is the thing what I have to take I have to take in future. So I did industrial design. So after while doing the industrial design, when I analyzed the projects that I did, so it was more towards the automobile side because there was no transportation design that time. When I analyzed or self-analyzed my projects, it was related to mostly automobile, like designing a three-wheeler, say, or designing an interior, or designing or changing a current vehicle into for physically challenged people. So it was more of automobile thing was there in all my design, all my subjects. So there I realized that this is the thing that I want to do in future. So that's why I joined the two-wheeler in Honda.
I'm going to go to Parag now. Parag Anchwar, I'm going to ask you this question. You did it from NID, but you did it long back. You must be still in touch with NID. What are the courses that NID offers, and courses that are specifically oriented, let's say, which architect or interior designer or fine artist can join in, can do or can excel at? What are the courses that NID offers for these people?
So as far as I know, during that period, fine arts people used to join mostly ceramic design or textile design fields. They were not allowed in product design or any technical fields like furniture design or product design. So mostly they used to be in ceramic or textile or maybe fashion design.
Yeah, but now I think even graphic design or video and film design, I think fine artists are allowed for that. Yeah.
So now there are a lot of other courses which are already started, like exhibition design, toy design, and multimedia design. A lot of these things are started. So I think that must be having interest in fine arts people can join those courses now.
Yeah. And I think for interior designers also, I think there are a couple of courses, right? You mentioned, yeah.
Pardon? Design, exhibition design, and nowadays film studios design, film sets design kind of thing.
Okay.
So these are the courses now they have started.
Right. So I mean, we have one more interesting question, but this is I think Chinmay and Namrata can take in. There are 2 semesters in which I think US schools admit students. I think the autumn semester and the spring semester, if I'm not wrong, right? There are 2 intakes for semester, September and Jan intake, or autumn or spring, whatever you call it. Which one should we normally opt for?
I mean, I don't think so. There's like a specific time. I think it all depends on when you are ready to sort of apply. It all depends on that. So instead of seeing which one to apply, you should actually see that you have 2 chances to apply. So if you prepare yourself and you kind of, create a portfolio and you actually apply, and just before applying, if you think that you're not ready, you have another chance. But it doesn't really make a difference if you apply in spring or if you apply in the autumn intake, because by the end of it, what matters is what you're learning out of it. So the course is important rather than when you actually do it. If you're ready right now, sure, go ahead and you can join in as well. And if you feel that you need some more time to prepare, you can apply in the next intake as well.
But then that doesn't make any difference, right? Whenever you apply, it's up to you, in short.
Yeah. I mean, from an academic perspective, it didn't make any difference to me. I mean, I don't. Namrata, you could also.
Yeah, but then from let's say a climatic perspective, because then if you join, let's say in December or something, it is extremely cold and you might not be able to cold at a particular time. Maybe can that be a factor? Should you consider that as a factor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're studying in Europe or like Australia or Canada, where the weather conditions are very, very harsh and cold can be really cold. I can only talk in terms of like the West Coast. I was in Los Angeles, so the weather was always sunny.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to face the cold, but yeah, I think it does depend. But it's up to your preparation, right? Am I prepared to go through that cold? Is that the sacrifice that I'm ready to make? And I mean, if you're spending so much money, you're looking at this education as an investment, then a little bit cold is fine. You can get over it.
Yeah, but then that is another thing, that another point that you will have to consider when you are applying itself. If you can manage those climatic conditions, I mean, you don't. You do apply there or you don't apply. Simple, as simple as that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see if there are any more questions. I think otherwise we have had a fantastic interaction. It's almost, I mean, we didn't even know it. So I think over 2 hours that we have been talking. Discussion that went on almost for two hours and a quarter. We're just wondering as to how long will it take. 2 घंटा बोलने में पहले थोड़ा सा ऐसा लगता wow 2 hours, what are we going to talk about? But then it's almost 2 hours. We have passed 2 hours. I think we have just answered all the questions. There's one or two questions there which I don't think should be taken up. There is, does it help to have industrial or field experience before applying for PG? I think we've already answered that. It pays to keep working right through your graduation also. Plus there were other questions as to how much of self-study is involved in all PG courses. Of course, abroad as well as in India, I think a PG is a lot more of self-study. You just, as we've already said, you can't be hand-holding in your post-graduation and not in your design field at all. So I think it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, as a teacher, I've always been telling you, it's never too late to learn. And it's always a learning experience from anyone and everyone. And I feel very proud that today I've learned a lot of things from my students. I have 3 students out here, and I have 3 students and 3 people who are pretty young, and I could learn a lot many things from you all. I mean, with the passage of time, you might grow old, but as a teacher, the advantage is you're always in the midst of young minds, and young minds which always keep on teaching you new things. Just like nowadays, it's a good thing to teach your grandparents how to use the digital media. It's almost as good as that. I mean, we're just almost on the threshold of that by age, that is, not by heart. We're still, by heart, I think I'm still a part of the youth, youth Congress or youth BJP or Yuva BJP or so on. So we are that old. So anyway, I mean, it was a wonderful experience, and we would like to have you all on to showcase the work that you're doing. This was just a panel discussion for counseling point of view. I think we would love to have you all to showcase the type of work that you're doing. I think we still have a full semester to go, and I don't foresee any physical classes in this semester at all. So I think we can still get on once more, have a web session like this where you can come across to our students about the work that you people are doing, because these fields are extremely new, extremely novel fields for all of us, and we would like to see the work that you people are doing. So we hope to host you some other time also virtually. It's easier that way. I mean, a lot more people can participate, a lot more people staying anywhere in the country or even abroad can participate. So it's good to have you. I'm going to hand you back over to Vaibhav for his word of thanks. And unless any one of you has anything to share, I think Vaibhav can take over. Yeah, Vaibhav.
Thank you. It was quite enlightening and thrilling for me as well, because we all faculty members are quite young as well over here. And it is a novel field that we came to know. I mean, various different novel fields that we did not know that after architecture we could do. I'm sure our students are extremely thankful to sir and to all the panelists as well, that they got to know quite in detail about the different fields and kind of work that you guys do. And we would surely take this forward to have a session on what work you exactly do. Okay, I thank you all for this and welcome you to Amity again, because this is going to be a continuing thing.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Sure.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Have a great day.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Have a great day. Bye.
So we will wait till all of them leave and then we'll sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. I will turn off the streaming by time.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, turn off the streaming. Yeah. Anuradha ma'am can wait. she's still there online. I think if Tamane sir is there, he can also stay back. Or the faculty, if the faculty is there, they can stay back. Shall I request the rest of you people to just log out?
I think everyone is out.
No, there are.
Ranjit, is it Ranjit sir or
Ranjit sir ही होने चाहिए. But he signed in as Ranjit JK.
Yeah.
Ranjit sir, is that you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
हाँ, चल. हाँ.
Yeah. Okay.
अच्छा, Ravindra is also there.
Yeah, Ravindra, he joined in as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that forwarded to him. Ravindra, तू है का? From Shilpa Sagar.
Yes, sir. It's me, Ravi. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha.
So how did you find it?
Yeah, it was great, sir. Great experience. Actually, now I'm thinking of opening a new venture. After this thing, I'm thinking of counseling students to abroad education also.
नाही मी म्हणून मुद्दामच तुला पाठवलं होतं ते म्हटलं that becomes an add-on for the students. Let's say if you're having them on or if you're counseling them for graduation, you can also tell them what are the fields that are open to them for PG. That becomes an added advantage. So that is why I forwarded. मी मागच्या वेळी तुला पाठवायचं विसरलो होतं and then I thought that